Jeepers, the kickdown's effective. The Vauxhall Senator B is one of my favourite Vauxhalls of all time. Yet I've never driven one until today. So how does this one do? It is ever so very Hubnut. So yeah, it's one of my favourite cars. I love everything about these cars. I love the indicators in the bumper. I love the sort of egg crater grille. Of course I love tiny headlamp wipers. And we've seen these headlamp wipers before because this car was in my Festival of the Unexceptional report. This one dates from 1989, I think, but the Senator B was introduced in 1987. An extended version of the Omega, or to us Carlton, platform, but with a different frontal treatment, a slightly longer wheelbase and more space inside and more luxury. These suffer quite badly from rear arch rot and also in the back of the sills here, down there. But this one doesn't seem too bad there. It's so the door is part of the opening. All very peculiar. Look at that original dealer brochure. Very, very nice indeed. And around the back, again, unique to this model, the rear lights with that oh so 80s feature of black lines to give it that smoked look without actually being smoked. See also Volkswagen Scirocco. But yeah, a very shapely car. Looks quite similar to some Australian Holdens, I will grant you. The Holden Commodore of this era did actually use the same doors and the glass area initially. They later changed that. But otherwise, very, very different. Under the skin of a Holden is a Buick V6 engine or a big V8. Here we go. It's the old, I think it's still the cam-in head type engine layout. It's a big old 6-cylinder engine, 3 litres. Very conventional. There's a dizzy cap, HT leads that look more like fireman's hoses, and this is 177 brake horsepower. Around the time this one was built, they did come out with a 24 valve version, very popular with the police force in the UK as motorway pursuit cars. They were over 200 brake horsepower with dual ram induction, so you boosted low down torque by changing the inlet tract length. Moving inside, it's trying to be very classy, but I will admit it's only being very classy by Vauxhall standards. We've got leather seats. Velour was a no-cost option. We've also got a digital dashboard, which I'll show you in more detail in a moment. But obviously the heated controls, you know, a bit confusing to be honest. Yeah, I don't see what this split layout's all about. I never quite understood it. And that's straight out of poverty models, although we can control the temperature each side. So that is a luxury feature. We've got heated seats. We've got, in theory, air conditioning. It's broken. We've got a little trip computer to tell us various things. Cruise control, I think, is fitted. 4-speed automatic gearbox. Manual, again, was a no-cost option, I think. And there's some buttons down here for, I don't know what. They're just blank. Electric window switches here, again, shared with the lowest spec models. There's your family cutoff. And I think they have a safety feature where if you do them up and something gets trapped in them, they will release. I'm not going to test that with my bare hands, but once as a child I did in a Vauxhall Cavalier, and thankfully it does work. Electric sunroof is fitted. This one doesn't slide, and we've got map reading lights that don't appear to work. That's good. Will they work now? No, we'll give up on those then. That's fine. Stalks are very closely related to lesser models, but actually slightly different. The indicator stalk has a massive amount of movement on it. That's controlled to adjust the tilt of the steering wheel. Let's fire up that digital dashboard for you. It's quite good fun because it occasionally resets. But there you go. Look at that. How 1980s is that? It is just screaming 1980s. So if I start the engine, you see the rev counter. There's something very untoward with the exhaust on this car. I can't quite work out if it sounds fantastic or terrible, but nonetheless, there it is. Now you're aboard, we might as well do a windscreen wiper test. Oh, very green. Look out, the wipers pop up. They're constantly hidden below the leading edge, the trailing edge rather, of the bonnet. Good overlap, no triangle of doom. Quite a nice wiping pattern actually. We've got a, yeah, there we go. That's quite nice. The same as the Carlton. The Carlton had completely hidden wipers as well. Very much a styling thing for that time. Just before I turn the engine off again, we've actually got adjustable shock absorbers. I'm not sure whether they work. It looks like we've got a comfort, a medium and a sport, I'm guessing. And I don't know what the light represents. Or maybe that's the length of time it takes it to adjust. Got extra vents in the doors. Be welcome in Australia, those would, wouldn't they? But yeah, just a cheap, nasty looking Vauxhall cassette player. I don't think that's particularly luxurious. Let's just have a quick sit in the rear and see what it's like there. Again, the same sort of door pulls you'd expect in a Vauxhall. It's trying to be quality, but at the same time somehow isn't. And we jump aboard. Oh wow. Yeah, plenty of room for my hideous shorts and knees in the back of this car. Feels very comfortable indeed. Really good view. There's extra windows. I've got little matte reading lights. Hey, these ones work. We've got soft closure on the... No, we haven't got soft closure on that. That's the alarm system to detect whether there's motion inside the car. I've got my own vents here in the back. A bit of storage in the backs of the doors. So yeah, this is quite a nice place to be actually. Presumably I've got a centre armrest. Oh yes. And a ski hatch, I think, as well, to give access to the boot, and so you can stick your skis in. But I've never quite worked out why anyone would want to stick their skis inside a car. Because it's a plush CD, we get these little curbside markers, curbside illumination. Let's go and check the boot. Do like the boot spoiler. And yeah, that's a good size in there. Looks like we've got the full size spare there. Wow, so that's packed in nicely. Plenty of space in this enormous boot. So, practical wagon it is. Good for the popo, they can hide plenty of stuff in the back of there. Let's fire up that engine again. Oh yes, that does sound quite potent. I don't know if there's something tricky going on with the exhaust or what, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have sounded like that from the factory. There's a bit of a creak from that strut top mount, which you'll have to just mostly ignore. We're going to do some mild off-roading here. So obviously it would be much more peaceful with the windows shut and the air conditioning on. You'll just have to bear with for that. Whoa! Torque a go-go there. Yeah, it's quite strange. This digital display, oh gosh, that is firm. Can I put the dampers into soft? Will that make it softer? That was rock hard. It says it's got 4 gallons of fuel. Oh, that's certainly floaty. I don't like that. Put it back in the harder mode. I was expecting it to be far better over those speed humps than it actually is. Yeah, there's a very peculiar resonance going on there in that exhaust. Kind of not exactly what you expect. There's something very old school generally about the noise. It's maybe I expect a slightly more modern driving experience, but yeah, it feels firmly old school. It's a very clever gearbox, very smooth. I believe it's a ZF item. Yeah, very smooth. Obviously we've got a lot of wind noise because I've got to have the windows open. It's just simply too hot to close them, I'm afraid. This is a slightly dog-eared example, but I think it very much tells you what this car was about. It has recirculating ball steering, but feels absolutely fine. It seems to handle quite well. It kind of goes where you point it, really. Like I say, it's just the fact that some elements are just a bit low rent for what was presented as an executive car. And that doesn't compare favourably with cars like the W124 Mercedes, BMW 5, or even 7 Series. They just feel a bit more nailed together. This one's done 132,000 miles. But I don't think that really excuses some of the flimsiness. But yeah, the actual feel of the car itself is very nice. Obviously it would have been sold as an Opel in other markets. Vauxhall, a uniquely UK brand by the time this car was bought out, and Vauxhall itself had no say in the development of this car. It was just very much a sales office. Other engine choices, 2.5 initially as your lower spec entry model. That changed to a 2.6 dual ram later on to accompany the 24 valve dual ram. Let's go this way, no one else is going this way. Yeah, it doesn't roll around, it feels quite planted. I'd say it feels a bit more sporty and taut than say a W124. But yeah, I'm very glad to be driving one of these. I should have bought one while they were cheap. These have fast disappeared because of the aforementioned rot. It's just killed so many of these. But this is a fine old barge for wafting around in. But yeah, I would far rather have velour than this particularly sticky leather. Now the digital dash came in for quite a bit of flack back in the day. The motoring press seemed to hate it, and I'm not really sure why. I'll open up and see that I've got 4 gallons of fuel left. The speedometer is absolutely fine, not a problem with that. The Vauxhall stroke Opel digital dashboard was always a lot better than many of its competitors. I think they worked on it really nicely. The gearbox has sport mode, and it also has a winter mode that locks it in third gear effectively to try and reduce the torque at the rear wheels, because a torque converter gearbox like this will just multiply that torque, and it can lead to some entertainingly wheel spinning moments. I think I've already had a mild one exiting that car park earlier. So I put it in sport mode already. I think it's just kicked down a bit, but yeah, that's feeling quite rapid. I think we'll knock it out of that. The actual driving dynamics are really nice. I can see why the police fell in love with these, because they're big, spacious, and with that dual ram 24 valve engine, they are something of a flyer. That exhaust is hilarious. It sounds like Grandad's got a megaphone and he doesn't care. He's kicking off at the party. Yeah, I will say the ride is still a little crashy, and we could go firmer, I think. Let's put it into sport mode, see if that makes any difference. Nothing discernible so far. Because only when I did put it in the comfort mode, it started to feel distinctly undamped, quite bouncy. The Senator was in production from 1987 in this form until 1993, and they only sold about 70,000 examples, which isn't a huge number. I'm not sure it was entirely worth their while, and I suspect one of the problems was, compared to their competitors, this just hasn't quite got the feel right. I think it was a very good effort, but I think a little more should have been spent on the interior, just to make it feel a little more special. This is where mass marketeers sometimes get it a bit wrong. Ford, notably with the Scorpio that came along towards the end of the 90s, it's just way off the mark, and more people were turning away from luxury versions of ordinary cars. So the Fords and the Vauxhalls weren't what people wanted. They wanted something a bit specialist. That was the trick of Lexus launching that brand, so people would buy Toyotas. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of regret for not buying one of these when I had the opportunity. Woe is me. Jeepers, the kickdown's effective, and I'm not even in sport mode. That good automatic gearbox is so important in a big old barge like this. You want it to be responsive when you want it to be, but you also want it to be lazy when you're just cruising around. This gearbox seems to do both modes very well indeed, even not switching it into sport mode, say. It's taken me a long time to get a drive in a Senator. I have been admiring these cars since they came out. I was a huge fan as a child. I was 9 years old when this car came out, and I kind of fell in love immediately. And yeah, I like it. I can see exactly why more people didn't like it, but actually I like this very much. Reminds me of my Ford Fairmont, which after all is very ordinary Ford in terms of interior, but is a lovely big barge nonetheless. So there we go, that was the Vauxhall Senator, another of my childhood heroes I finally met. That is such a good looking car, and generally I do like the driving dynamics too. The ride, perhaps the only element that just gave me some mild disappointment, but yeah, that engine, very lusty, the gearbox, very well natured, whether you're cruising or getting a proper shift on. So glad to have finally ticked that box. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store and buy lovely merchandise. You can't buy my lovely shorts, unfortunately. There's an idea for the future. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell.